Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Stramaglio Show. Today is going to be a great interview or conversation. We have the world famous Ed McLaughlin with us. And if you don't know Ed McLaughlin, you haven't been in our business very long. So, Ed, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Love being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of change it up a little bit. I normally ask, what's the story of Ed McLaughlin? What's the story of the person that we're speaking with? Well, we we don't have that much time, but I have the advantage of having spent a little bit of time with you and your family not too long ago, and I'd kind of like to focus on that. So, given your longevity in the industry, I sincerely appreciated the invitation to join your birthday party out in New Jersey. So I'm kind of curious. You have a wonderful family, and how did you feel about that very special birthday?
The birthday is irrelevant. It was a great opportunity to have some really wonderful people around for the day and people that have been meaningful to my life. And I just enjoyed every bit of it. I think you met some interesting characters at that event. I'm absolutely sure. You know, some people that Tom Davis, who's a fellow that introduced me to Steve Jobs, and some of the other stories you might have gotten from him. Just a phenomenal guy. Mark Drummer, who was the head of plastic surgery for Princeton, just a down to earth, roll your sleeves up type of guy. A lot of talented singers, and my cousins, and I don't know if you met my cousin Ed. He's an author. He's written about 12 books. Just great people, just a lot of fun, and had a good time. Just enjoyed being around everybody.
Well, for everyone who's listening, it was an honor to be invited to your party. I enjoyed it. I met some very special people, and you're right. I heard some of the best singers I've ever heard in my life, including you.
Well, I pale in comparison to some of them. That's no question in my mind about
Wow, I think they're Broadway material, but
it. They are.
anyway, it truly was an honor to be invited, and I'm grateful I was able to get there, and you had me. And you're right, a wide array of personalities and skill sets. So thank you. I wanted to make sure I said that. So for the audience, again, you've had a very illustrious career, and certainly one of your longest and most successful parts of your career were at Sharp. But maybe you could spend a little bit of time about pre-Sharp and your career in general.
I'll make it relatively brief. I got out of the Air Force in 1969, and as soon as I got out, before I went in, I was in a position of production control, working for a company called Honeywell, and I went back to that job as most people do when they get out of the service, and found out that that position had been unionized, and I didn't function very good in that environment, and so I left, went to Univac, uh, with the idea of going back into production control, which I did do very briefly, but I was studying accounting at the time, and went over to the controllers department and got very involved in the international division of Univac, and that's where I got exposed to office equipment. And we also had a Remington Rand division, so I saw copiers and all that stuff. But the computer industry really grabbed my imagination. But I wanted to get into the marketing side of things and into sales. Even though I was studying accounting at the time, I began to find it, no insult to any existing accountants listening, but I found it boring. And the conversations we were having just didn't appeal to me. So I ended up at 3M Company, where I had enormous exposure to uh, just so many things, and really enjoyed my time at 3M. Um, Left there because in a meeting in St. Paul, they had told me they were getting out of the industry in time, which they did do. It was quite a few years after that, but uh, I left and went to SCM, then to Saxon, then to Canon, and had quite an extensive exposure at Canon. I mean, that's where I met Marase and Mitarai and people like that. Also, that's the first time I met Steve Jobs. Um, it was a great experience. But my job there was to develop the national account division, which everyone said and warned me, "Don't do this. This is just insane because you can't have a national account division in the dealer organization." Well, we proved them wrong on that. I ended up with a stint in running one of their subsidiaries, and some people started coming in that we didn't really mix really well. I ended up at Rico, actually Savin, part of Rico, trying to get that straightened out. Took over their direct operation for a while, and then did some things with their government business, secure industry, developing products for security purposes, and then got recruited over to Sharp, and that probably is the top of most people's memory of me. And it was 10 years as their CEO, and just had a blast. I loved Sharp. I mean, I learned. I have to say that the things that influenced me the most in my industry were probably 3M and Canon, and I got a chance to really do many of the things I wanted to do at Sharp. They gave me just an enormous opportunity to turn things around, and just gracious people throughout the whole organization. I really enjoyed every day of it.
Ed, you may be one of the maybe the only person, if not one of the few people on the planet that can actually say Mitarai, Marase, and Steve Jobs in the same sentence, and that you've met them and worked with them.
Mhm.
I'm kind of curious, especially on the Steve Jobs side. You're an interesting individual. You have accounting background, you have sales and marketing background, you have certainly a huge product development and interest. Out of the three gentlemen that you just mentioned, could you share with us what did you learn most from each one of them?
Oh, well, Mitarai just, and I would bet he's still this way because he's still active today. God bless him. Um, he had an engaging way of just drawing people in and making them feel comfortable. And he was very disarming and very brilliant. Um, he had a nickname for me, Mr. Nice Job, and the reason for that is that we had a VIP with a VIP visit with some people that come in to look at the opportunity and us running their account for them. And we took them up to Mitarai's office, and had a conversation about what was going on. And him being the chairman, I guess he thought it was kind of funny that I later complimented him and told him he did a nice job. So he got a big kick out of that, and called me Mr. Nice Job after that. Uh, but he just was always on top of his game. He really understood every aspect of his business, and he looked down the future as to what was going on, and he gave the people around him the ability to do their job. He didn't interfere, and Marassi was the same way. Marassi, um, very forward-thinking individual that really understood where he wanted to go and what his results were. Extraordinarily detail oriented, although he didn't come across that way. But he really understood the business, and he took the time to understand what he was doing and where he was going. Jobs was that's just I my first time I met Steve, I couldn't stand him, to be frank with you, and told Marashi so. But later on, in fact, we were thinking about partnering up with him with Next. Uh, when I was well, we had already Canon was already partnering up with him at Next after he left Apple, and much of the technology that was in the early Next products were Canon technologies, and I was running Duplifax at the time we really started to partner with him. I ran into him at a Seabold event. Um, we brought him over to a dealer meeting and started having some conversations. And we decided that we were going to start using some of the next product as an interface with the color devices at the time. And I didn't know how I really felt about it, to be honest with you. But at that time, Davis was with us, and he introduced me to say, actually convinced me to continue with Next because I didn't want to. I said, "You really think it's a good idea to?" He's so finical. I mean, he can get crazy at times. And he said, "No, the guy's a genius. We're going to work with him." And so we did. We were the only subsidiary that became a full fledged Next Object Channel partner. So we didn't just sell the computer for the color output devices. We began to be an actual reseller of the software and the hardware, and did some pretty interesting stuff with it at the time. So it was quite an experience. And Steve afforded me a number of rather interesting experiences throughout my career, including abandoning the business without telling anybody after we had just placed one of our largest multi-million dollar computer orders, and just dumping. We the check had only cleared. I think it was a $2 million deal. The check had only cleared um, maybe at 3 days, and he announced he was out of the business. And I had to I had to go visit the CEO of that company that day and get it cleared up. That's a long story. Not enough time for today. But we get out of it fine, and actually, it all end up making friends of that CEO for life. To be honest with you, he's another interesting individual that affected my life.
Ed, you have, and that those are great stories. Obviously, I know Mirai Marasa. I never had the honor to meet Mr. Jobs, uh, but I would think it sounds from your explanation that there were some consistent personality traits between all of them, even though they're Japanese and American. And so,
You know what? I excellence in individuals doesn't matter what they are, what their heritage is. If you've got a sense of self worth and self value and determination of things to do and a purpose that you want to achieve, the cultural background doesn't really matter. I found really great people in every ethnic and group that I've been exposed to in my life.
so when you look, when you look in, and I could share some experiences with you, and just being in the business like this, but we have lived through generational change, technology change, business model change. Now we're living another new change with the advent of AI and some of the new things. You're now running your own company that really influences, if not drives, some of these data driven things and AI. With all of these next evolution kinds of things, you've lived through them, you've guided them, you've led them, you're still doing it. How are you feeling about the next 5 years in our industry?
I think it's more exciting than ever before. I mean, I know people talk about how pages in the office are declining, and that's certainly a reality. Uh, but that doesn't mean the information that we have been part of for decades is going away. We're, the problem is that for many years, we thought that we were in the business of making pages, but it was really about the unstructured data that was on those pages that really drove what we did. We were part of the whole workflow process. We still are. The document still exists. It just has a different format, and it still has to come out on paper from time to time. So the function of print has changed, but it's never going to go away. It's never going to go completely gone. And putting images on paper and other things is going to be around for quite some time. So the imaging aspect may move out of the office into production and places like that. Inside the office, knowing what we're doing with the document and how to manage that environment is useful for many decades going forward, and I think continue profitability and more interesting. I mean, when I started in the business, our competition was carbon paper. So things have changed quite a bit.
A little bit. And I remember those days. So it's kind of interesting to hear you talk about the workflow. I mean, that's actually a really good point. The fact that they're dropping toner on paper is it's certainly a significant part of our model, but it really is the information, the workflow, the data.
80% of the knowledge of a company is out of the unstructured data. Only 20% is structured data. So it's the most important knowledge of a company. And it continues to be. Now we're starting to control it electronically, but it still has to come out on paper, and it starts in the human mind. And it's not something that's done by a computer. And that's going to continue to be the case.
So when you look at again the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the industry, what are you thinking about? I know you've been very active in hiring people, even spouses, military spouses and so on.
Mhm.
What?
Well, that's our support, our whole support. It's 100% by military spouse right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For the audience, I think I have an idea where you're getting these folks, but you may want to share it with them.
It's workforce. They work with us, and they're just fantastic to work with. And our response time, we set a target of 5 minute response time, and this year we're averaging sub 2 minute response time. And it's only because of those kind of people that we can are able to do it.
So just to clarify, and our producer will make sure we put the contact information in the show, but Vert Force is exclusively dedicated to hiring military spouses. Is
Right.
that? Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So we'll share that with information, and you're giving them 5 stars.
If I could get an extra star, five, can you do 5.5 or something, 6 or something?
Okay. So again, going back to the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you've got. I've been talking with a number of people in academics and other companies. How are you feeling about young people and their view of artificial intelligence harming their ability to to get a job in the future? How are you viewing that?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, we don't really address that depth of thinking about artificial intelligence. It's going to be it's another tool, and yes, is it going to do some things that some people do now and maybe do it a little bit better in time? But in the early stages, it's not going to do it to replace. You're going to be replacing people somewhere down the line, but you're going to be creating something else.
But you're feeling good about the
There's
future.
always the future's there. I mean, how many? I remember passing by the Univac building when I was a child. We used to go past it, and people say that's the new electronic brain that's going to replace all these jobs. How many jobs did it replace? It did, perhaps maybe some menial jobs, but it created so many more. And technology and as the advancements we make, if we keep our eyes open to the opportunities that will abound, we don't know what they all are yet. Anyone that thinks that they know what they are is only kidding themselves. They're going to unfold as we go forward, and there'll be plenty of opportunity to do things, and other things will evolve as a result of all the technological development.
So, kind of segueing or pivoting off of that, again, you and I both have had a wonderful, blessed career in this industry. What what wisdom would you like to share with the young folks coming into the business or the next gen leaders working for dealers or other OEMs? What do you see as the most important advice and counsel you can give to these younger people?
Keep your eyes open and learn everything you can about the business. Don't take the shortcuts. Really begin to understand why you're there and what value you're helping bring to your customers. Uh, Once you understand everything about this business and the peripherals around it, um, it makes it really enjoyable. It's an ever changing industry, and just look for all the changes that are coming. The changes that we've experienced throughout the past decades. I've exceeded 5 decades in this industry, and actually, I did some of that arithmetic not too long ago. I was actually almost crap my pants. It's a long. It's been a while, but a lot of things have changed, and every time something changed, people were worried something was going to put them backwards. It just created more opportunity, and that's exactly what we're looking at. And don't worry what it's going to be; it'll all unfold.
I've always had tremendous appreciation and affection, not to mention respect for you. And there are a lot of stories I could share with people. One I actually posted, and I'm glad you remembered. Um, and I want to share a little bit without embarrassing you. But one of the most impressive things about you to me was your sense of people. You are and were a very humble leader at Sharp. Although I'm sure there's some people who would say he was a pain in the butt.
I, I guarantee it.
But I definitely wanted to say thank you because there were some moments when you came and found me and gave me encouragement and without saying it, just real inspiration and advice. And I think that's one of your greatest assets.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
So when you think about you're welcome. So when you think about Ed McLaughlin, what are you most proud of, if I could say it that way? And what is in your mind your biggest ooha moment where you went, God, I wish I hadn't done that.
There's too many of those. The the thing I'm most proud of is my family. To be honest with you, I mean, through through all that's been done, I mean, the career it's been a blast, and I've enjoyed every aspect of it, every turn of the ups and the downs and the ins and outs of it. Um, I really I look back on the years, particularly at Sharp. I think we accomplished quite a quite a few things that really influenced and had an impact on the industry. We never got to the level of dominance that I would have liked to have gotten to, but we certainly did rekindle the leadership spirit at Sharp, and it's continued on to today, and had some really great people take it forward from where we made the turn. And in aha moments, there's so many mistakes that I've made that my feeling about them is no big deal. You made it. Did you learn anything from it? If you did, that's cool, and just move forward and don't screw up the next time. But I've had a lot of probably way more mistakes than successes. But as a consequence, we've learned from each one of those things, and no big deal.
Well, clearly you've been very fortunate and very professional, and certainly a leader with what you do and what you did at Sharp stands head and shoulders. I think it's a remarkable journey you had there. When you think about yourself, what do you and I know you have a long runway to go, and we expect you to keep contributing forever and ever.
I hope so.
What do you want people to, when they think about Ed McLaughlin, what do you want them to think of? What do you want them to think of you?
He was a straight shooter. That's it. Just did the best he could, and didn't bullshit anybody. Didn't take any bullshit either.
That's why there's two sides to the stone, right? Straight shooter and no bullshit. I like it.
I don't have a high tolerance for bullshit. Is that
I I noticed I try to stay out of your way when I drift off into bullshit. So, but you yank me back and everyone else back, which is again I think part of your the beauty of you. Who was your mentor, Ed? Who did you have somebody that you just said that's the guy that really made my life, or girl?
there was a lot of people that have influenced and had a big influence on me, but probably when I went to 3M, I ran into a guy by the name of Ed Morgan, and he ultimately ran the national account division for Lanier, but he was my first branch manager, and he really was a class act guy that taught me that it was important to think on your feet, uh, and to not to try to plan everything out exactly, but to be able to be respond to the things that are going on around you and make the right decisions at the right time, and to look forward. He's the first one to coin for me the term being fashionable, and I thought, well, I dress pretty nice. What do you mean? And he said, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Being fashionable is looking at the things that are important to your boss, to your customers, the people around you, and stay in tune with how those needs change. Because just because you satisfy them today doesn't mean you're satisfying them tomorrow. Look at how they're developing. And that's what being fashionable was for him. And that stuck with me my entire career, trying to look forward. Sometimes my biggest mistake was looking too far forward and not thinking about how to implement whether the timing was right for some of the things that I wanted to do. And it's probably where more of my mistakes came in at, is trying to rush technology before it was ready.
It's an interesting one, but you have a brilliant imagination.
Some Sometimes people don't want to go anywhere near it. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of hard to control, right? But you've been a master. Certainly, watching you at Sharp, uh, you've been a master product development, bringing in new products. I recall a few situations where you encouraged, if not inspired, Sharp management to actually invest in some things that they probably weren't literally interested in doing.
The Pretty much the way you deal with everything. I mean, just being candid and honest about where we're going and what we're doing. I mean, I don't want to reveal necessarily the idiosyncrasies of some of the individuals, but some people, product planning people, sometimes are a little myopic. They look for something that's going to be there right now. And if you're planning products, you have to look at least 5 to 6 years down the road or more, because someone's already developing something more than likely. And if you wait until they develop it, you're going to be 5 years behind them. So you have to look at what your customers are doing, and it goes back to Ed Morgan's original comment about being fashionable, looking down the road and seeing what the needs are, and trying to get people to understand why they need to develop certain things. When we introduced the OSA, I mean that was quite an attempt to really get people to think differently about the MFP. I don't remember at the time, but Adam was leading the pack at the time with the embedded system that they had. I forget what they called it now. And I just went, this is not going to work. We need something that's open architecture and something that's out there on the network to be able to communicate better, because we're now part of that universe. We have to be a better citizen there. And it, quite frankly, helped influence and change the way all the manufacturers um, responded to that. In fact, I had an incident that happened with Bamba, who was another guy that just absolutely loved Bamba. Ken, great guy. He saw me. We were at Sharp and had already introduced OSA, and it had taken it was about a year or two into it. And we were having an absolute influence at that point in time, and it had a lot of developers. They had had their system for, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years, and they had two or three developers, and we had like 500. And he saw me and he said, "How you doing? I hate your guts."
Whoa.
And I said, "Oh, oh, good. What did I do?" And he said, "You've changed my life. You've screwed up everything I planned. I got to rethink it now based upon you." And then we laughed and had a beer. But he was a great guy. He's a great guy.
So, a couple of other, we're coming around the corner here. A couple of other quick things that I'm curious about. Hopefully, the audience is. When we started the Executive Connection Summit, we didn't even call it that back then. I think it was Technology United.
It was the hybrid dealer group.
That's it, Hybrid Dealer Group. You were the first executive to jump on and support and join what we were trying to do, the thought process. And frankly, you had no real reason to do that. I mean, it was a risk. It stole your
It
time.
sounded like a good idea to me.
Well, so I'm kind of curious. You were there from the beginning.
Mhm.
Why'd you do it, and how do you think we're doing now, 15
Well, it's
years
better
later?
than it was. It's better than it was. And what you were doing, I mean, you wanted to get people to get out ahead of this whole idea. At the time, the conversation was NPS, and dealers were getting away from being just transactional to being more services or services oriented. And quite frankly, I thought that was desperately needed in the industry, and had been for quite some time. So trying to influence people to think differently and to think about services, not just equipment and transactions, was it was a message that was music to my ears. I just thought we'd just jump right on it and help support it. That's simple.
Well, I'll tell you what, you were, I'll never forget that speech, by the way. And,
You
and
know,
it may be more legitimate.
it is one of the most imaginative holes in the earth. That's true.
Well, we'll share that with
Revisit that another time.
another time. So, and by the way, thank you for being a sponsor at this Executive Connection Summit in February. And again, your contributions, whether you, but frankly, your contributions are far beyond Sharp or the companies you work for. You're brilliant. What you deliver is spot on, and you always stretch people's imaginations and make them reach. So, for me to you, I'm grateful for that because you make me reach every day. And now, again, I have one final question, but before I ask it, is there anything you would like to share with the audience that you feel needs to be shared from your perspective?
I mean, these are just things that I've said repeatedly to you. I don't want to be to overdo it, if you will, but just keep involved in this business, and don't stop where we are. I mean, I see we kind of get stuck sometimes in the way we've always done it, and we're slow to adapt technology. We're slow as an industry. We're slow to bring things into place, and it's served us well for many decades. But things are moving faster now than they ever did before. It's not Moore's laws. It's over with. We're moving at the speed of software now, not the speed of the silicon, and things are moving at a much faster pace. And we have to find ways to get more done with less people. Not that we want to reduce the number of people, but we want to make their jobs easier, more fun, and as a consequence, get them to be able to do more without adding more staff to it and continue the growth patterns that are there. Sometimes we relegate some of the decisions at executive levels down too far, and let people make decisions that are afraid they're eliminating their job when in fact what they're doing is enhancing everybody else's job around them. And we need to be more cognizant of that as an industry. Um, Other than that, this business has got a lot of runway yet, a lot of runway, and a lot of money to be made at it. Services are the natural evolution of where we came from, and everyone that went to business school saw the chart when they first went, and it's still there. Once you have a product, when the product comes out, that's the highest level of value it's going to have. The value later comes from services, and we're there. So it's a services business, and that means we got to be more customer centric than we've ever been before.
Boy, that last 10, 15 seconds there is jam packed with good stuff. I especially like the comment about relegating decisions down to people who think that a positive decision for the company is a negative decision for them.
People will do what that's in their best interest first. So they have to understand, and we need to guide them and educate them that we're not hurting them. But I see a lot of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it still continues, but we're going to change it, and the opportunity is great, as you said. So, my final question, which I think I might have an idea how you might answer it, but what is your favorite Frank Sinatra song?
I knew you were going to ask that question. You ask everybody that question. So it's impossible for me to give you a favorite song because for me, Frank Sinatra really it's his depth of the understanding of the music and the orchestra behind him. I mean, It's surrounding himself with the best that ever was. And I really think that's critical for all of us to learn from. And he surrounded himself with the best arrangers, uh, the best songs, and he got involved with it to the point where even though Nelson Riddle may have done an arrangement for him, Nelson Riddle also did one for Nat King Cole. But if you start with the Sinatra song, you'll know it's a Sinatra song right from the beginning because he knows what he's looking for. He understood it and he understood the purpose of the song and the communication of the song. So for me, Sinatra is the body of work, the intense involvement and understanding and knowledge he brought and transmitted into the communication of that music. Uh, that just, I don't know that I ever heard a song he did poorly.
That was a beautiful, beautiful summary of Frank Sinatra. I tend to agree with you. And by the way, you know every composer, you know every melody, you know the story behind the
The
writer.
Maxwell started off on, you're right, all the way up to Quincy Jones. You're right. I know them.
So
Uh,
anyway, if you haven't heard Ed sing, I posted something not too long ago from his birthday party where he knocked out a couple of great tunes. So Ed, I'd like to thank you for not only the invitation to your party, but for joining me today. And I'm not going to be embarrassed and say, I love you. You're a brother to me, and God bless you.
Love you too, Mike. Thanks a lot for having me.
My pleasure.